Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Wednesday, March 20th, presented by Boston Hemp Inc. Ian Cameron, Brett Skalski, back for a Wednesday appearance on the show. A little bonus, Brett, if you will, here on the Wednesday. And Terry Edelman is back once again doing great work as we await the return of my colleague and co-founder of the Ice Guys show, Alex B. Smith, who will be rejoining the show on Saturday this weekend. But in the meantime, we've got a Wednesday NHL card to break down. We have 3 games on tap here tonight. First, though, of course, we will look back at a huge Tuesday night slate, and it was huge in terms of the quantity of games. It was huge in terms of the profits this man reeled in last night in the NHL. It was a phenomenal Tuesday night, and man, was it much needed. You know, it's been treading water. It's been up and down really since the All-Star break, and for me to put a night like that on the board last night from a betting perspective, I'm happy as hell on this Wednesday because everything mostly went according to plan with the card yesterday. Let's recap it. 6-2 Boston. It was just a matter of would they be ready to go face an Ottawa team, put their best foot forward. They sure did. They were in control from the start. What a night for David Pastrnak, who could go off at any moment, and he did last night with the hat trick in that game for the Bruins. Just in complete control, really, from start to finish. And it ended up being an easy 6-2 win for the Boston Bruins. 4-3 Detroit against Columbus. A huge 2 points for the Red Wings because every point now for them is big as they try to maintain a hold on a wild card spot. That didn't look like they were gonna get any points out of the game last night. Down 3-2 late, they get the tying goal with just 13 seconds left. The second goal of the night from Lucas Raymond, and then Showtime Patrick Kane with an absolute beauty in overtime to give the Red Wings a comeback 4-3 win over the Blue Jackets. We hit the over by Fecta in that game, over 1.5, over 6.5. Detroit is now starting to streak to the over in the first period, I should point out. So definitely something you want to be aware of moving forward. The New Jersey Devils, 5-2 against Pittsburgh. Shows you what kind of season Pittsburgh's had, right? They get New Jersey off this long road trip. New Jersey's not playing well, and Devils still beat them by a score of 5-2 last night. One emerging story for New Jersey is Jake Allen continues to play exceptional, really, for the Devils these last 3 starts. He's been terrific. He's, I think, clearly now the number 1 goalie, and I think Travis Green is going to, roll with him moving forward in net because he's playing that well right now. You look at his goals saved above average, goals saved above expected. All those advanced numbers for Jake Allen have been off the charts here in the last few starts that he's had. He's the only reason they were even in the game against Vegas over the weekend. So credit to him. He continues to play well, give the Devils a chance to win. And the offense, my goodness, been a while since we've seen the Devils put a 5 spot on the board offensively, but they were able to do that. And thankfully, they were able to do that because we had the over 6.5. Even though we lost with the over 1.5 and the both teams to score in the first period, we at least got a lot of goals in the last 2 periods to come back to get over 6.5 in the win column in that Penguins-Devils team. Penguins are still an over team until further notice, in my opinion. They're capable of scoring, but they are just a mess defensively. And the goaltending from Jari and Nedeljkovic, that combination is just not good enough on a nightly basis, I think, to keep the goals out. So still, my approach isn't going to change. We're looking at Pittsburgh overs, going to continue looking in that direction moving forward. How about the win? Maybe the best win of the night. The Winnipeg Jets in New York last night against the Rangers, a 4-2 win for the Jets. I just wish this guy played this way more often. And look, he's still a good player, he's having a good season. But when Mark Scheifele plays the way he did last night, he could be just an absolute dominating offensive player in this league. And sometimes you don't get that from him some nights. Some nights he's not noticeable. Some nights he's taken too many dumb penalties. And it's just you don't get that version of Mark Scheifele, in my opinion, often enough. But boy, you got it last night. He was outstanding He gets a hat trick, the hat trick goal coming into the empty net, but they all count on a 4-2 win for the Winnipeg Jets in that game. It was a very solid road effort. I know in the third period, the Rangers kind of took it to them. That exacerbated the shot count in favor of the Rangers. But I thought through the first two periods, Winnipeg was the better team. And I thought the Rangers in the second period in particular were not good at all. And Winnipeg ended up taking it to them in that period. But, great win by the Winnipeg Jets, 4-2 against a very good Rangers team who had been playing good hockey. And that was Vezina Hellebuck last night as well. He was magnificent. 2 goals, 40 shots. A great performance from him in net. All the talk, of course, about the Leaf Flyer game was about the scratching, the healthy scratch of the captain, Sean Couturier, Cam Atkinson, and others. Would that break apart the team, or would they come together and have a heck of a game even without the captain, who had been struggling in the eyes of John Tortorella? With all that controversy, should he or shouldn't have he scratched him? And we'll get Brett's thoughts on it in a moment. Who's the resident Flyer fan here on the show today. It worked. They won the game. So all this talk about, man, he can't scratch the captain. It's a bad look, for everything he's done for the Flyers. John Tortorella wasn't around with the Flyers all those years. Couturier, pre-injury, was a dominant center in the NHL. And look, you can't quibble. The guy has his team in a playoff spot right now. The guy, it's tough to see that happen to your captain. It's a very, very risky move. It's a very, very bold move. But at the end of the day, how did it work out for Philly? Oh, yeah, they won the game last night. So, it ended up, they won the game. So, you can't just, criticize that move too much considering the result. And it was a very good game. Right? You could tell right from the start, Flyers were ready to go. So the buttons that Torts pushed, even if the people that don't agree with the buttons that he pushed, it worked. And the Flyers ended up putting a good victory on the board. The team played well. They were ready to go from the opening faceoff. They were clearly better in the first two periods than Toronto. Toronto really only played well in the third period, and by then it was too late. And by the way, you talk about a coach that was not happy. Sheldon Keefe, after that game, no compete on the defensive end. We were atrocious in our own end. They asked, what did you think of Samsonov? I didn't like anybody tonight. Forward, defenseman, goaltender, anybody was any good. So a very scathing criticism of his team from Sheldon Keefe after the game. And remember, they've got to play tonight on a back-to-back against the Washington Capitals, which we'll get to in just a moment. 4-1 Carolina. They look awesome right now, Carolina. They really do. Their offense is just, it's better. We've talked about it. It's deeper. It's stronger. They got more game breakers now since they got Gensel and even Kuznetsov as well. And look, they can put a blanket on you defensively. And unfortunately for the over in that game, and I know Terry was on it, I was on it, too much of a blanket for our liking, as the Islanders could only muster 1 goal in that game. And the Islanders now, they're on a skid at the worst time when they need the victories in the worst way. So not a good time to be on a losing streak and struggling right now if you're Patrick Waugh and the New York Islanders. But that's the way it is right now. His team is not performing at their best when they require their best right now. A 4-1 win there for the Carolina Hurricanes in that game. Very disheartening to lose the over, just because of the fact that it was 3-0 Carolina after the first period, and then just the 2 goals after that. Colorado 4-3 against St. Louis. Look, I still thought the handicap was good. St. Louis gave us a run for the money yesterday. I mentioned I thought they were live at plus 190. I did hit the team total over 2.5 on St. Louis, so we ended up splitting. No harm, no foul. They gave Colorado the tough game that I expected, but good teams, really good teams, find a way, and Colorado did last night. What a performance by Mikko Rantanen, and the Avs get a 4-3 win against the Blues last night. I'm still not sold on Onanen, the goalie for Colorado, but still, they won in spite of it, and a 4-3 win for the Avalanche last night. Yeah, Dave, TJ Brody's, I should mention that about the Leaf game. TJ Brody's got to sit down, too. This is like Alex Lyon part 2 for me with this rant. He's got to sit down. He needs a break. He needs a physical break. He needs a mental break. He's a mess in his own end. He's checking thin air, hot air in his own zone, that guy. He never takes anyone out in front of the net. He doesn't lay a body on anyone in front of the net. He doesn't get the puck. He doesn't get the man. He's just standing there like a totem pole right now, TJ Brody in the defensive zone. It's absolutely brutal to watch. Brutal to watch. He needs to sit down and get a mental and physical break. And I hate being this angry regarding his play and this critical of the man, because he's gone through a lot in his private life. His wife's been battling through sickness. I think his brother or his dad recently passed away. He's had a lot of stuff on his plate. I get it. But, all the more reason to sit him down. Let's get his mind right here, because DJ Brody is impeding this Leafs team defensively right now. He's been absolutely awful. And something's got to be done. And the fact that guy was on the ice and Simon Benoit was sitting for the amount of games that he was, I'll never understand it. It's a money thing. It's a contract thing. I get it. You don't want to be sitting the guy that's making the money that Brody is, but at some point, performance has to matter. And right now, the performance for TJ Brody's not up to par. End of story. Simple as that. But anyway, getting back to the next games on the slates, Nashville 8-2 against San Jose. What a beatdown this was. Magnus Krona lit up in this game. The Predators now, it's a 15-game point streak for them, 13-0-2 in their last 15 games. It was a dreadful night for San Jose, and everybody got in on the act here. We saw, obviously, Forsberg score again, but we cashed with Evangelista with a goal prop. Zucker ends up getting involved, a guy that they acquired at the deadline. Yossi had a great night, multiple points. I mean, it was everybody getting in on the act for Nashville, and they just blew the doors off San Jose. And what actually makes this win impressive for Nashville is it was a brutal spot for them, coming off the road trip, and still ended up just putting the beat down on the San Jose Sharks. So absolutely impressive stuff. What a run for Nashville, and it coincides with that U2 concert that got canceled. And ever since then, this team has been like a runaway freight train. What an incredible 15-game stretch this has been for the Nashville Predators. Edmonton, look, they had to work for it, but they beat Montreal 3-2 in overtime. Valiant effort from the Canadiens, but the Oilers find a way. Terry's Minnesota Wild with a 4-0 shutout victory, and I'm glad I went with the team total route in this game, over 3.5, and they got all 4 goals in the hockey game. Last night, the Minnesota Wild, and they did what they should have done, right? Anaheim's struggling. Anaheim's got Gibson in net, who hasn't been playing all that well the last several starts, and good job by the Wild getting 2 points they should have gotten. LA with a 6-2 pounding on Chicago. That's twice now in less than a week that LA has just absolutely beat down the Blackhawks. What is that now, 11-2 in the 2 games combined for the Kings over the Blackhawks? So a nice performance from them. All their big guns played pretty well. Kopitar, Kempe. They got contributions as well from Laferriere, who's actually continuing to play really nice, really good hockey for them as well. But nice win for LA there, 6-2. I thought, even though they lost, look, valiant effort from Buffalo last night. Back-to-back against Vancouver. That game was a 1-goal game in the third period. And even though you lost 3-2, you fell short. I thought it was an admirable effort on a back-to-back against a rested Vancouver team that was looking to get back on track. And I'll say this, 34-17 were the shots for Vancouver. If there's anything you can take positive out of that game for Buffalo, it's that Devin Levi looked as good as he's looked at any point this season in an NHL game. He looked really solid. He looked like he's had a lot more confidence. His rebound control was better. Square to the shooter on most instances, only allowing 2 goals on 33 shots last night in that game. So that's the good Devin Levi that we all kind of want to see. And definitely we saw it last night. Even though they lost, he gave Buffalo a chance and played very well. And for Vancouver, it's a much needed 2 points. You played a sound game. You protected the lead. And you played the kind of style you're going to have to play in the playoffs if you're going to succeed. And then the last game of the night, which was a beauty for me, 5-3 Tampa Bay beating Vegas. Give the Lightning credit. They are on a roll right now. The Tampa Bay Lightning starting to get their game going. The big win against Florida. They go to Vegas. They beat a good Golden Knights team 5-3 last night. I had the over trifecta in this game. All 3 legs of it cashed in. The over 1.5 first period, both teams to score first period, over 6.5, which was my best bet on the show. That came in as well. The only thing that didn't hit was the draw, and it was that close to go into overtime. It was 4-3 there in the final minute. Duclair with the bargain bin, of course. Yep, plus 320 for him to score a goal. So that was a phenomenal betting result for me. That game's pretty much, other than the draw not hitting, which I'll live with that, and a nice win for Tampa Bay. And look, we've written Tampa Bay off a lot in the past, and in the playoffs, I still worry about them in the playoffs a little bit. Don't think they're going to get through the East very easily, but This is now the best little stretch of hockey that we have seen from the Tampa Bay Lightning, I think maybe in a long time. It may be the whole season, the last week that they put together here with their performances, the way they beat down the Rangers, they beat Florida, beat Vegas last night. So it's been a better run right now for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we'll see if they can sustain that in April when the playoffs begin. And to Jackie's point in the chat, Jackie, yes, Aiden Hill's got issues right now, 100% true. There are issues right now with Aiden Hill. He's not looked at all in the last month like the goalie that led this team on a brilliant run to the Stanley Cup last spring. All right, that's it. That's all I got to say. Let's open it up to everyone else. Brett, we'll start with you. I know you have some thoughts about the Couturier stuff and what's going on with the Flyers, but what did you think about last night? And how did the night go for you betting-wise?
Yeah, it was a good night. I was on a lot of the same stuff you guys were, so it was a good night for me. The Flyers needed that win big time. They're in the middle of a brutal schedule right now, so that win hopefully can propel them to string a couple together as they're battling with Washington for this kind of last playoff spot. It very well could come down to that last game of the season where they play against the Caps at Wells Fargo. But as far as Couturier goes, I mean, he needed Torts to hold anyone accountable, right? And Couturier's got 2 points in his last 20 games or something. His expected goals is lower than Mark Stahl, for God's sakes. So I think when you're thinking big picture and you're thinking about this rebuild that they're in, you've got to hold everyone accountable, and that includes the captain. So, it might not be pretty to see, but sometimes it's what needs to get done. And like Terry said before the show, he's hitting all the right buttons right now with this team. So I'm not going to argue with the man, but good night overall for me. Even better that the Flyers got the win. So we'll see what the Caps can do tonight.
No doubt. Terry, how was the night for you? And obviously for your own team, the Minnesota Wild, another solid victory.
Yeah, last night was filled with some ups, some downs. The best bet over in the Carolina game didn't cash. I expected the Islanders to do more. They had 9 shots halfway through the game. That's all the Islanders had. So they showed up towards the end, but a little bit too late there. But the big hits were Seth Jarvis and Lucas Raymond yesterday.
Yep.
Seth Jarvis cashed plus 300 there. Before I even checked the score of the game, before I even got to look at it, he'd already scored 2 goals. And it's like, wow. So I'm all excited. And then moments later, Lucas Raymond scores. And it's like, okay, so this is what the night's going to be like. Sides-wise, Rangers lost. Tommy Novak for the Nashville Predators. It took until the 8th goal. He scored the 8th goal, but hey, a winner is a winner, even if it takes to the last moment. So that was nice there. And then, the Wild. Kaprizov anytime goal winner. The Wild puck line winner. Kaprizov. Oh, I apologize. My phone did that. Oops. Kaprizov power play point. Boldy power play point. Zuccarello power play point didn't get there, but perfect game from the Wild. Couldn't have asked for any more. I guess Kaprizov to get the bargain bin if he'd scored one more. I could have asked for that, but a great game by the Wild, and we're going to be talking about them today in an incredibly important game for their playoff hopes tonight.
Every game moving forward, I would say, pretty damn important if they hope to make the playoffs. All right, let's get to Wednesday, and we will begin with the Toronto Maple Leafs, back-to-back for them. They're back in action tonight again, second straight night, taking on the Washington Capitals, the red-hot Washington Capitals. Toronto minus 130, road favorite, 6 the total, 6.5 actually in some spots. So make sure you shop around for this one. There's a lot of factors to consider in this game. Form-wise, the first thought is how do we not take Washington right now? They've won 3 in a row, 5-2 in their last 7. It was a pretty solid road trip. They bounced back after a rough start to it. They were shut out by Winnipeg, beaten down by Edmonton 7-2. But after that, they reeled off 3 straight wins, beating Seattle, Vancouver, and Calgary to wrap up that road trip. But this is a difficult spot here for Washington. It's that Malinsky special in play 5-game road trip, all out west, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Seattle, Vancouver, Calgary. And you factor in as well, they've got just 48 hours of turnaround time following the final game of that trip in Calgary. So for the Washington Capitals, tonight is going to end up being their 6th game in 10 nights for this hockey team. Okay, 6th game in 10 nights, all with travel. You go to Winnipeg to start the trip, to Edmonton, to Seattle, to Vancouver, to Calgary, and now you're back home. You're playing your 6th game in 10 nights here tonight in this game. That is not a Washington spot for me when I see something like that going into this matchup here against Toronto. And then I see the way the Leafs lost last night. That's now 2 in a row. They blew it against Carolina at home. They had the 4-3 loss where they had a bad first 2 periods. They got going in the third, but it was too little too late. Sheldon Keefe, it goes on and on about their lack of defensive awareness last night, that they really were just discombobulated defensively. You got defensemen that are just skating or going for a skate in their own zone, not checking anybody, not looking at where the puck is. That's the kind of night it was at the defensive end last night for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Sheldon Keefe was not amused, said there's not one forward, defenseman, goaltender. Nobody, looked good last night, he said in his post-game press conference after the game. So not a happy coach. I expect a good response from Toronto. And they ultimately have a Washington team that, even though they're playing well, it's a bit of a vulnerable spot coming back home after that road trip, in my opinion. And if you look at the series history, it's been domination for Toronto. The Leafs are 6-1 in the last 7 meetings against the Capitals. Last year, or earlier this year, I should say, in Washington, back in October, I believe this was the night where they did the Frozen Frenzy, and we were on the air. I remember it. And we thought Toronto would beat Washington that night. They ended up winning 4-1 in that game back in October. And guess what? Joe Woll was in net, and he was outstanding. He was absolutely fantastic in that game, completely shutting down Washington, one of his best games of the year. 1 goal allowed on 38 shots. And he's back in net tonight, obviously, for the Leafs after we saw Samsonov last night. So I like Toronto here. But I like them even more in the first period in this game, to really jump on Washington, to really heed the words of their head coach, who was not amused about that defensive effort last night in the loss to the Philadelphia Flyers, and especially the slow start. And he said, I didn't have him ready to go from the opening puck drop last night. So you factor in, they need to get off to a better start. The coach wants them to get off to a better start. Players know they've got to get out to a better start. And you've got Washington coming off this long ass road trip. And the first period, when you're back home off the road trip, you're usually at your worst. And you have no legs, and you're losing the puck battles left and right. So I think Toronto minus 125 first period. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, I think Toronto wins the game too. I like the full game as well, but I'm going to focus more on Toronto first period. Greater percentage of my wager is going to be on that. Toronto minus 125 money line, and I'm going to split the first period portion in half with the first period puck line. So it's going to be a half and half with Toronto minus 125 first period money line, half of it on Toronto minus a half plus 175 first period puck line. And then I'm also going to take a smaller amount on the full game money line here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like I said, they've owned Washington. It's a brutal scheduling spot and situation for Washington. And even though I still stand by it too, though, for Washington here, even though they need these points desperately and they're playing well, no team is immune to this kind of tricky spot, in my opinion. So, like I say, I like the Leafs here, but I especially like it early. That first period, I think, is the even better option here for the Leafs. Knowing they've got to get off to a good start, and teams off the long road trip are usually at their most sluggish in the opening 20 minutes of that first game back home. What do you think here, Brett? Leafs Capitals.
I'm on the same boat as you with the Caps first period puck line. If you go back even further to the third,
Leafs first period puck line, I think. Yeah.
Leafs first period puck line. Sorry. If you go back even further for the Caps, since March 3rd, they've traveled to every game. Home versus Arizona, at Pittsburgh, home versus Chicago, and then this 5-game road trip out west. So fatigue's got to settle in. I don't think they have the depth to keep up with the scoring of Toronto. So with the start Toronto had last night in the first 2 periods, they gave up a first-minute goal in the first and second period last night. I think the onus is going to be on them to have a good start. So I'm going to go Leafs first period puck line.
All right, Leafs first period puck line as well for Brett in this one. Yes, it is, Dave. It's Malinsky special for Washington. 5-game roadie back home. It's got to be 4 games or longer, the road trip, for it to qualify as the Malinsky special angle, where you fade them in the first game back home. So it was a 5-game road trip. And again, for Washington, this is their 6th game in 10 nights, all with travel. And think about the average age of this team. All these old Cripple Creeks. I shouldn't say that because they're playing good hockey right now, but Ovechkin and fucking Oshie and Carlson and all these guys that are older on this team right now. They got to go through this kind of scheduling spot tonight. Not easy, no matter how good they're playing. What do you think here, Terry? Leafs Capitals.
Yeah, I'm passing on the side in this game. Horrible spot for the Capitals. The Leafs just got called out by Keefe. You think they would come out here and have a really good game, and they should. But I just don't want to fade this Capitals team right now. I really like how they're playing defensively and the goaltending they're getting right now. So when it comes to a side, I've got nothing here in this one. I do like a player prop on each side. I'm going to take Old Man Ovi to score a goal here. It's at a pretty good price, plus 165. Back-to-back games with a goal. I think he can get one here at some point. And then John Tavares, plus 190 for him to score. He's got a goal in 3 of his last 4 games. So Tavares is starting to heat up here. I like him to find the back of the net, take a goal on each side, and that's all I'll be watching for in this game.
All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm looking at the back-to-back record now, Rich, as we speak for Toronto. I'm just doing the quick math here, and I've actually got them 5-4. 5-4 on the season, Toronto, on the second night of back-to-back games. So they actually have a winning record on the second night of back-to-backs, the Leafs this year. So, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's damn good just to be 500. On a back-to-back, to have that record on a back-to-back, 500 or better. But 5-4, it is official. Yes, 5-4 for the Leafs on a back-to-back this season. So they actually do have a winning record here in this spot. As far as props go here in this one tonight, I know Alex's bargain bin, he sent it along to me, is from this game. We'll mention it in the bargain bin special of the night. And by the way, Alex is on some totals here in this game. I think the totals are tricky here. I had the over in the Leaf game last night. I had the over in Washington's last game against Calgary, and he likes first period over here and first period both teams to score, Alex, in this game. I don't hate the first period over. I could see it being a couple goals early and then it slows down after that. Alex likes the draw as well with the Leafs and the Capitals. His bargain bin comes from this game as well. But, for me, as far as goal props, I'd look at LaPierre. I'd look at McMichael. As well, Milano for Washington, some of those type of players for Toronto. Bertuzzi, whether you want to take him goal, assist, points. I mean, he just continues to produce here for the Leafs right now. No question about that. Lindgren confirmed in net, by the way, for Washington, and it will be Joseph Woll, who, again, he really was a Wall when he played Washington back in October. It was one of his best starts of the season, so we'll see how this one plays out. But yeah, I would still take a shot too with some of the players I mentioned in the game yesterday. McMahon, Nyes, Robertson. You're getting good prices on them. I think they'll be more. They'll be better tonight than they were last night. Certainly, hopefully, have a better start. All right, Arizona and Dallas. We've got the Stars minus 300 home favorites, 6.5 the total in this one. The Dallas Stars, of course, coming off the victory that they had against the LA Kings on Mike Modano statue night on Saturday, 4-1. It was a great thing that they did for him. Well-deserved, unbelievable career he had. Mike Modano, of course, was on the team that led Dallas to their one Stanley Cup in 1999 as well. We'll see how they go here against Arizona. Will the focus be there? That's what you always have to ask about Dallas, because remember the last time they played a kind of a struggling, middling team, they lost 6-2 at home against New Jersey, and Jake Ottinger was in net that night too, and it was not a good night for him. And he was asked about some of his struggles this year because, look, his numbers are down this regular season from where they've been in the past. But he said, I'm not worried. I have belief in myself. I have confidence in myself. And I know that I still think can be one of the best goalies in the NHL. And I like his attitude. He says, I'm not really paying attention to what the noise outside is saying. I'm really focusing on getting back to the kind of play and the level I know I can play at. And Peter DeBoer is saying, echoing the same sentiment. He said he's a hardworking young kid. I have no doubt that, when the playoffs roll around, he'll get back to the form we all know he can bring. So no one's pushing the panic button about Jake Ottinger, and I'm not pushing the panic button about Jake Ottinger because I've seen the body of work, especially at playoff time. Terry Edelman, as a Wild fan in pain, has seen the body of work that Jake Ottinger has thrown at his team in the playoffs and other teams in the playoffs. It wouldn't shock me to see him get it together when the Stanley Cup playoffs arrive, no question. But as of right now, like I said, the regular season hasn't been great. We'll see how he fares tonight. Jake Ottinger confirmed in net. Connor Ingram back in net here for the Arizona Coyotes tonight. Arizona off back-to-back wins. Give them some credit. 4-1 at Detroit, 4-1 against New Jersey. For them, solid victories in both games, scoring 4 goals as well in both games. These two teams, of course, have played just once earlier this season, and it was a 4-3 win in overtime for the Dallas Stars. And we know they've had this issue of playing down to competition at times. I'm kind of interested in the draw here because we saw that overtime game earlier this year. Arizona has won 2 in a row. They've played some more competitive hockey here these last couple of games. Now New Jersey and Detroit are not Dallas. They've been struggling, those two teams they just beat. So there is some truth to that. Can they step up against Dallas? Dallas has owned them. 5 straight victories over Arizona. And only that game earlier this year, back in November, was a 1-goal game. The other ones were pretty decisive Dallas victories, 7-2, 4-0, 4-2, and 5-2. So we'll see how this one plays out here tonight. I am interested a little bit on the draw in this one. As far as the total goes in this game, I lean over, but I don't know. I get the feeling that Ottinger, after sitting the LA game when it wasn't a back-to-back, that's the thing too. He sat the LA game. Jake Ottinger and Wedgwood played. There was no back-to-back. That was just, we're giving Jake a little bit of a break here because he had that rough game against New Jersey last week, and it would not shock me to see him play well tonight. So that's what would scare me a little bit about the over for the game. Is Arizona going to contribute enough to be able to help out with that? And we'll see what Dallas brings to the table here in this one. They did score the 4 goals against the LA Kings in their last game. The team total is just a little high for my liking, 3.5. It's -150. You got to lay a little bit of juice. So maybe I look at the draw, but I think it's a tricky game overall in this one. But Dallas needs to start putting away some of these teams like in Arizona and not let them hang around in games. And they've been guilty of doing that far too often, especially on home ice this year. So I think I'll sprinkle on the draw. I do lean to this over and the Stars team total over, but I don't love the number at 6.5 because I'm worried about Ottinger playing well, and I don't love the price. I definitely would have been on the Stars team total over 3.5 here if the price was better, but at -150, I really, really don't love that laying that kind of a price on it. Brett, what do you think here? Arizona, Dallas.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. This is going to be pass for me at -300. There's no value there. There's no value on the team total. I mean, Arizona's lost to the Blackhawks twice in the last 2 weeks, so I don't know if you can trust them to pull an upset or even keep it tight. So I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I'm just going to pass on it.
I don't want to be there with over 6.5 in this game, and it's 3-1 Dallas, and it's the third period, and Arizona's putting the pressure on, and Jake Ottinger is like just robbing them blind and just making crazy saves. And because to me this has that gut feel that this is a Jake Ottinger night where he's going to play really well. After the New Jersey game was just a shambles for him. They sit him down for the LA game. It wasn't a back-to-back. They just said, let's give you a breather. Let you hit the reset button, recharge your batteries. We're going to give Scott Wedgwood the start against LA. And now he's had almost a week between that New Jersey game and this one. So it just sets up to me as Jake Ottinger plays a better game tonight. We'll see if he does. What do you think here, Terry? Arizona, Dallas.
Well, I hope that Ottinger doesn't play a much improved game. I'm on the over 6.5 here for a couple reasons. Talking about Dallas too, it goes back further than just 5. They're 18-2-1 in the last 21 games against the Yotes. 4 of the last 6 have gone over 6.5. This Stars team has gone over 6.5 in 4 of their last 6 games. And when we look at the goaltenders here in this one, Oettinger's last 4 starts 7-6, 6-2, 4-3, and 6-2. So even in a game where he gives up 2 goals, the game can still go over. In Dallas's recent games, Connor Ingram can stand on his head, yes, but he's allowed 3 or more goals in 9 of his last 11 starts. The 2 really good games he had recently were both against Detroit, who has not been scoring goals recently. Looking at Ingram against Dallas, he's played them 3 times. He's lost all 3. 5.14 goals against average and an .878 save percentage. So Ingram has not enjoyed facing the Stars. The Coyotes have not enjoyed facing the Stars. I love the over 6.5 in this game. I'm also on Joe Pavelski to get an assist at plus 130, Jamie Benn to get an assist at plus 150, and Wyatt Johnston to score at plus 200 in this one. Wyatt Johnston's got a goal in 4 games in a row. Pavelski's got an assist in 4 of his last 5. Jamie Benn assist didn't get there on the show on Saturday. He scored a goal instead, but still has 1 in 6 of his last 8 games. If Johnston scores, I like Ben to get an assist here. So a lot of Stars props and the over. I think we get a high scoring game in this one.
There we go. Terry liking the over. And that was my first lean in this game, was the over, and certainly Dallas team total over as well. But I did 3.5 at minus 150. I didn't love the price. I will say this: I see at Pinnacle, I actually might get in on that, at least the full game over now, because at Pinnacle, minus 125 for over 6, and I think that's a good price. I have no issue laying minus 125, minus 140, minus 150. Not crazy to lay a price like that, but minus 125 for over 6 instead of the 6.5. I'll probably jump in on that for something here in this game, because you could easily see 4-2 Dallas, 5-2 Dallas, even if Arizona gets held to 2 goals or less, just because I believe that Jake Oettinger will play well tonight. But again, his numbers this season have not been great, and we know he's had some rough nights. It's just a question of, can he flip that switch, be better tonight? And I think the week off will help him out. We'll see if that spurs a better effort and a performance out of Jake tonight here in this game. And as far as props, I know Terry mentioned a few. I'd be interested. Tyler Seguin is back tonight. That's a good call there with Duchesne and Marchment. So that line is reunited, and we know they've been very good as a line this year for Dallas. Wyatt Johnston with Jamie Benn and Sam Steele continues to be very good. I'm always interested in Wyatt Johnston props. There's no doubt about that. And yes, for Arizona, I mean, Logan Cooley has been the go-to guy for me on this team from a prop standpoint lately. It's been absolutely magnificent. Now, we've talked about Kerfoot. We've talked about Carcone in the past. Kerfoot, though, has cooled off just a little bit here the last few games. But Logan Cooley there's been no cooling off for him, no pun intended. He's been absolutely outstanding. Don't sleep on Bukestad either. Nick Bukestad with 3 goals in the last 5 games for the Arizona Coyotes. He's probably worth a decent look here tonight as far as goal props. But yes, Logan Cooley right now, goals in back-to-back games for him, 3 goals in the last 5 games. Yeah, Logan Cooley has been just the go-to lately for me with Arizona as far as goal props are concerned. So definitely would be interested in going back to the Logan Cooley train here tonight against the Dallas Stars in this game. All right, final game of this Wednesday slate. Terry's Minnesota Wild back in action, back-to-back for them, taking on the Los Angeles Kings. We've got LA minus 150 home favorites in this game, total sitting at 5.5 across the board, shaded to the over. Interesting spot because you look at the situation, and both teams played last night. LA stays at home. Minnesota does have some travel, but it's really just a bus ride. From Anaheim to LA, they probably stay in the same hotel. Most teams do that when they have the Anaheim, LA back-to-back. So it's not like this is a brutal back-to-back for the Minnesota Wild either here tonight in this game. LA in Minnesota back in October. And I remember this, Minnesota was going through their a really rough patch early in the season when, of course, Dean Evison was still there. and it was 7-3 Los Angeles over Minnesota. That's when you could start to tell things were heading south for Minnesota. And that's back early in the season when LA was just ripping off that incredible undefeated win streak on the road to begin the season before their season kind of hit some turbulence. So it's amazing how things have changed there since that October matchup when LA beat Minnesota 7-3 at XL Energy Center. We'll see how they fare here tonight in LA. Last year in LA, it was 1-0 Kings between these two teams. You know, it's funny. We've seen some high-scoring games in Minnesota, but it's been pretty much nothing but unders in LA between these two teams. We've seen a lot of lower-scoring hockey between these two teams. We'll see if this continues the trend here tonight in this game. It looks like on the second night of back-to-backs, Marc-Andre Fleury in net for the Minnesota Wild. By the way, I do want to point out one thing here. Jonas Brodin being out for the Minnesota Wild. I have said this, and I've seen enough of this team in the time, and unfortunately for Minnesota fans, there's been way too much time where both Spurgeon and Brodin on the blue line have been missing at the same time. They don't just become a little bit worse defensively when both of them are out. They become quite a bit worse, and I'm worried about this right now for Minnesota. That here we go again. Brodin and Spurgeon, you know, arguably they're two best in terms of in their own zone defensemen that are on this hockey team are out again. So from that standpoint, I worry about the goals against moving forward a little bit more for Minnesota without Jonas Brodin in the lineup. We'll see how they fare here. Now, they were able to score 4 against Anaheim last night, but it'll be a little bit more difficult tonight against the Kings. We've got Marc-Andre Fleury in net for the Wild on the back-to-back because we saw Gustafsson last night, just like it'll be David Riddick for LA after we saw Cam Talbot last night for the Los Angeles Kings. Now, Fleury's given up just 2 goals here, it looks like, in each of his last 3 starts. So he's been good, 2-1 in those outings. You know, he's going to be tested tonight because a little bit of a better team, but, you know, he's allowed 2 goals or less in 6 of his last 7 starts, 5-1-1, .937 save percentage in his last 7 starts. So the flower is blooming once again right now for the Minnesota Wild. Riddick in net for the LA Kings. And, you know, this is probably the most consistent season overall that David Riddick's had as an NHL goalie in quite some time. Now, he still had some ups and downs. He did have a shutout against the Islanders, 3-0, but last start against Dallas, he does give up 4, and then the start before that against Edmonton, he gave up 4, but his numbers are still pretty solid overall. 2.29 goals against average, .916 save percentage. I have to think, though, there's going to be a little regression coming for David Riddick. I still have my concerns about whether he's going to be able to keep that up moving forward here as far as those kind of numbers, you know, in the foreseeable future. We'll see how this one goes, but Minnesota, my thought here is with this total being 5.5 here in this game, I'm kind of interested in the over here with Riddick and net. With the back-to-back fatigue for both teams, I could see some mistakes in their own end. It's 5.5. We're not asking for a lot. My concern is in LA. There's been a lot of unders with these two teams, but I am definitely kind of interested here in a small over bet. Nothing strong. Won't be best bet, but I definitely like that over 5.5 a little bit in the first period. And if I'm taking a side here with Fleury's numbers, and Fleury, I still favor him a little bit over David Riddick. Now, I'm concerned about Brodin being out, which is why I lean over, because I think they're a worse blue line without Brodin defensively, for sure, Minnesota. So I lean, nothing that I love in this game, but right now I would look Minnesota plus 130 from a side perspective, and I would look over 5.5 from a totals perspective. Do I love either one? No, but I don't want to say pass. I want to give you something. And if I play this game, and I might play it small, it's a late game, Minnesota and the over would be the way I would look. What do you think here in this one? We'll start with Terry since he's the Wild fan. Minnesota, LA.
Spoiler alert, I'm on the Wild. I think everybody probably saw that coming.
Yeah.
Reason being, Fleury has been absolutely phenomenal. I can't see him retiring. I see Fleury playing at least another season. He's turning back time. 2 or fewer goals in 8 of his last 10 starts. 11-2-1 in the last. Minnesota's 11-2-1 in the last 14 games that Fleury's appeared in. He's just been amazing. LA, absolutely horrible on the second night of back-to-backs. They have lost 8 of their 10 back-to-backs this season.
Minnesota's not
Now, the
great
Wild,
either, but they're at least a little better. Yeah.
yeah, the Wild did not start the season good
Yeah.
on back-to-backs
Yeah.
whatsoever, but they are 4-1-1 in their last 6 back-to-backs. So towards the end of the season here, they've been getting it going in the back-to-backs. Um, I have to take the Wild here in this one. Kirill Kaprizov anytime goal is plus 170. I think that's absolutely crazy. He is, as I said, has been leading the NHL in goals since the All-Star break. He's got one in 7 of his last 8 games, Kaprizov. So plus 170. I know it's probably because the total's 5.5, but I'm fine with that. David Riddick, um, he's kind of either really good or really bad. He's allowed 4 more goals in 4 of his last 8 starts, and he's lost 4 of his last 8 starts. I trust Fleury here in this one, and the Wild are going to need Fleury to keep this going because Jonas Brodin loss is definitely a loss.
And he doesn't give you much
and,
offensively. It's defensively where his loss is felt. Yep.
and with Spurgeon, he's been out all year. I don't even really look at Spurgeon. Like, he's been out pretty much all
He's
season
still on
long.
this
So I don't
team.
really,
Yeah, I know. That's the kind of feeling you have with just how much time he's missed. Yep.
I don't really consider him being out because he's basically been out the whole year. So Jonas Brodin definitely hurts, but I like the Wild to get the job done here as a dog, and Kaprizov to score, which should not be plus 170 in this game.
Yeah, the Kaprizov goal keeps cashing. It's like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. No doubt. Look, the trends point under. These aren't the most consistent offensive teams, really, either side going into this game. But this is like a system play for me. The system play for me for years has been no Brodin, especially in addition to Spurgeon, and it's not as much of an under team as they normally would be, the Minnesota Wild. And you're giving me a 5.5, and you're taking one of the best shutdown and overall defensive-minded blue liners off the team in Jonas Brodin. I think that opens up value for overs for Minnesota again. So that's why I'm going to look that way at 5.5. I agree, though. If I'm betting the over, I don't want first period over. I want just the full game over because I could see it starting slow. Then the legs give out on the back-to-back second period into the third period. That's when the turnovers happen. That's when the sloppy play happens, when physically you start to give out a little bit. And I think you could see that again later in the game. So if you like the over and you kind of lean that way as I do, I would say full game with the over. Stay off the first period look. What do you think here, Brett, with Minnesota, Los Angeles?
Yeah, we're on the same page. I jumped in on the over right away. LA is 5-3 to the over on back-to-backs. Minnesota 7-3 to the over on back-and-backs.
Oh, wow.
Back-to-backs.
There you go. Back-to-back fatigue. There you go. They're great numbers.
So I jumped over. I'm also on the Wild, but I'm going to split my bet between Wild money line and take the Wild team total over 2.5 at minus 115. Because I can see this being a higher scoring game. I'm not going to do anything with the draw. I think it should be a playoff type game, though, nice and tight checking. But I think we'll see goals later in the game, like you pointed out.
Yeah, I like that. I like Fiala anyway because it's against his old team, Terry Ray Vegas in the chat. 100%. The Fiala's cooled off a little bit the last couple games, but this is the night, I think, to jump back on the Fiala Express against his old team, the Minnesota Wild. I like that look as far as props go. For Minnesota, I'm going back. I know you mentioned Kaprizov, Terry, and I agree, but I'm going back to the well with Ryan Hartman. I mean, he just, continues to be very good, and you got great value with his price right now to score a goal for Minnesota. So back for me with Ryan Hartman tonight in this game. And then for LA, I mentioned Kevin Fiala. It's a good look that our guy Terry Ray Vegas says in the chat against his old team. And on the power play, you're right. This is a Kings power play that might be able to do damage against a Minnesota penalty kill. We'll see. But I would also maybe look at last night he was on the fourth line, but he's been sneaky now lately as far as goal production. Laferriere with 2 goals in the last 3 games. And again, I caution you, he's only on the fourth line right now for the Kings, but he's been stepping up. So maybe a little shot on Alex Laferriere here tonight for a goal prop for the LA Kings in this game. Great stuff. Brett, Terry, awesome work. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. And a reminder, If you aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure you are. We've had upwards of 20 to 25% of our daily viewers not currently subscribed to the channel. So make sure you fix that. Subscribe to the Ice Guys YouTube channel so you get all the alerts. You don't miss a single show. And make sure you get that done. Subscribe to the channel. Just like you should be subscribed to the Patreon page, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. You can get our daily sides, totals, and player props posted there on the page each and every day. Goalie charts, totals charts, and of course, we've got more exclusive live betcasts coming up in April and beyond. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 per month. Our next live betcast, this one is a free-for-all betcast open to everybody next Tuesday, March 26th, 7 p.m. Eastern time. It is a great NHL card next Tuesday. So great that, I'm going to actually bring up the schedule here and mention all the games that we've got going next Tuesday. And many of them are very important with playoff implications. How about a little first round playoff rematch with Boston and Florida next Tuesday night? Does that excite you? Does that excite anybody? That's on our betcast next Tuesday. How about a little Flyers and Rangers division battle? Flyers trying to hold on to a playoff spot against the mighty New York Rangers. They're going head-to-head next Tuesday night on the betcast. How about Carolina and Pittsburgh? Pittsburgh's not totally out of it yet. Carolina's playing great. How about Detroit at Washington? Two teams. That's like a playoff game right there. Red Wings and the Capitals battling for playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Devils and Leafs, not a bad game. Vegas, Nashville, with the Golden Knights, the defending champs, against maybe the hottest team in the NHL right now, the Nashville Predators. Great game. Edmonton at Winnipeg, an all-Canadian matchup next Tuesday night. Great game. And then it kind of peters out after that, I will admit. Once we get to 8:30. Calgary at Chicago, not so much.
Minnesota play.
Montreal at Colorado, not so much. Minnesota doesn't, believe it or not, Terry. They do not play next Tuesday. Calgary at Chicago, Montreal at Colorado, Columbus at Arizona, Anaheim at Seattle, Dallas at. So it really does peter out in the late night hours. With the later games aren't the greatest, but man, from like 7 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern, that swatch of games next Tuesday night is on fuego. Is just an absolutely loaded lineup. So we're looking forward to that next Tuesday night. And again, this betcast next Tuesday night, everybody can tune in and join us on the stream because it's open to everybody. So again, next Tuesday night, DM or email me or Alex for a spot on the betcast, and we will send you the link for it before it begins. And of course, check out the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch every day at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right. Best bets and bargain bin special of the night coming up right after we hear from our great daily sponsors of the Ice Guys show, our good friends at Boston Hemp Inc. All right, Boston Hemp Inc. Make sure you check them out, and you can get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code ICEGUYS at bostonhempinc.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night. We have a couple of bargain bin winners last night on the show. See if we can add to it here tonight. Brett, we'll start with you. What do you like for your bargain bin special here on Wednesday night?
So I'm going to dip back in, similar to Matt's play last night with Tyler Bertuzzi over 1.5 points, but instead I'm going to go John Tavares over 1.5 points at plus 350. You get called out by the coach, you expect your captain to lead the way.
I think he had over 1.5 points last night, even though they didn't play well against the Flyers. He did play well. He did get, I think he had a 3-point night last night. So I like that thought. It's a nice angle. I like it. John Tavares, Toronto Maple Leafs, over 1.5 points, plus 350 for Brett Skalski. Good bargain bin special. Like the look there. Terry, what do you got for bargain bin special tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go the same route, except I'm going to go with Wyatt Johnston over 1.5 points, which is plus 350. So if Matt's watching, go Johnston. Go goal scorers for the Stars. I like Johnston to get 2 points, which is plus 350.
There you go. That'll make Matt Robinson very happy. Dallas Stars, Wyatt Johnston, over 1.5 points, plus 350 for Terry Edelman with his bargain bin special of the night. My bargain bin special, look, some good choices here from all three games tonight. You could go in a bunch of different directions as far as that's concerned. I'm actually still trying to decide, but I'm going to go. He's been good now for me for a couple of games. He's warranted bargain bins, a bargain bin look tonight for the Arizona Coyotes. Logan Cooley, plus 460 at BetMGM. That is a great price. Goals in back-to-back games for this kid. He's really starting to figure it out. Remember, he's just a rookie. I don't even think he's barely 20 years old. He might even still be 19, but he is a very young kid. He's starting to get it rolling. He has been one of the most consistent beacon of offensive light lately for the Arizona Coyotes. And again, plus 460 at BetMGM right now for Logan Cooley to score a goal tonight. So there we go. That's a great price. Logan Cooley, Arizona Coyotes, plus 460 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets to wrap up the Wednesday show. Brett, what do you got for best bet?
My best bet is going to go out to the Minnesota-LA game, and then instead of going with the money line, I'm going to go with the Minnesota team total over 2.5. I think if you look at the Kings, they have been trading wins and losses, alternating games, beating good teams, not beating, losing to good teams, and beating bad teams. So I'm going to go Minnesota team total over 2.5.
All right, there we go. Minnesota team total over 2.5 for Brett Skalski with his best bet for this Wednesday show. And you can get a pretty good price on that, just minus 120, in most places. So very reasonable price with that. Terry Edelman, what do you got? Best bet.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. Give me Kirill Kaprizov to score a goal, plus 170. It's cashed every show I've been on so far. So let's look for him to score another one. Plus 170 is my best bet tonight. He does love to face the LA Kings. Kaprizov and Doughty have this rivalry. So I'll look for Kaprizov to score tonight. Plus 170, a great price.
You know what? I got to admit, that is a good price. You would think with the way he's been scoring the last week to 2 weeks, he'd be closer in that plus 120, plus 125 range that you would see Matthews and McDavid and Draisaitl and, guys like that routinely. But you're right. I'm seeing upwards of, points bet, plus 170, FanDuel, plus 170. Considering the clip he is scoring at right now for the Wild, that is a good price. And best bet worthy, says Terry Edelman. Kirill Kaprizov, plus 170 for the Minnesota Wild for Terry Edelman with his best bet for this Wednesday card. My best bet is Toronto money line first period. All right, I'm going to go the first period specifically. Minus 120 for the Toronto Maple Leafs first period against the Washington Capitals. We've got a Leaf team that lost last night because A, they weren't good defensively, and B, they had a brutal start. They weren't good in the first period especially. They really weren't much better in the second period. They didn't get going until the third period. Coach wasn't happy. Bad start, bad defensively. Players know they've got to start the game better. I think they will tonight, and they get on the other side, Washington, first period of their first home game back home after a 5-game road trip in their 6th game in 10 nights. It's a perfect bet on versus bet against situation in the first period tonight, in my opinion, for this game. So Toronto, minus 120 first period against the Washington Capitals. And if you want to be a little braver, you could go minus a half, plus 175 first period puck line on Toronto, because I do have a sprinkle on that as well. Leafs money line first period for my best bet for this Wednesday card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, The Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Brett Skalski and Terry Edelman, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We will be back with you tomorrow on Thursday for a massive edition and another big card coming up Thursday right here on the Ice Guys.